Yes.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So the next concept I want to cover is master slave configuration or controller worker configuration. So previously it was called as master slave. Okay. I'll give the context first. Where do we get this? And first, let me explain. Uh, Previously, Apache JMeter, they used to call the distributed testing as master slave. Okay, right now they are calling controller and worker instead of master slave. They renamed the terminology as controller and worker. Master was renamed as controller and slave was renamed as worker. Now what is this master slave configuration, right? So when we are running a test with JMeter, right? So we may be using, only one machine may not be sufficient if you want to run a JMeter test, right? So suppose you want to run a test with first. Okay, hold on. Let me tell in this way. Let me first go to JMeter website. Let's go to best practices, JMeter best practices. First, I want to show you something over there. Yeah. So see here. So a single JMeter client running on a 2 to 3 gigahertz CPU can handle 1000 to 2000 threads depending on the type of the test. So read and understand this statement properly. A single JMeter client running on a 2 to 3 gigahertz CPU can handle 1000 to 2000 threads. So when you want to execute a load test, right, with say for example some 4000 users or 5000 users, definitely one machine will not be sufficient. A single JMeter client running on 2 to 3 gigahertz CPU means a single machine having 2 to 3 gigahertz CPU. And where can we check this? What is the gigahertz is the clock speed of your processor, right? Gigahertz is the clock speed of the processor, or the clock speed of the processor is measured in gigahertz, right? Now how to check that is
Task manager.
go to open your task manager, right? Okay, I'm new to Windows 11. Sorry for that. Okay, so I'm not that much. I did not use 11 till now. So if you go to performance and CPU, right, this is your clock speed, right? 2.6 gigahertz, isn't it? So observe here, they're talking about this one, 2 to 3 gigahertz, right? So this falls under this bracket. The CPU falls under this bracket or no?
Yes, sir.
Can you check your processor speed, everyone? Open task manager, go to CPU and check your processor speed and ping it in the Zoom chat, guys. And I already told you this is 10th generation processor, isn't it? i7 10th generation processor. Clear? i7 10th generation. So this number denotes the generation. Okay. And this is your processor speed 2.6 gigahertz. Clear, guys? Now, so this falls under this bracket, right? Now, so this, suppose you want to run a test using this laptop, only this laptop, right? You can go up to 1000 to 2000 threads, or 1000 into 2000 users. We can run a load test with 1000 to 2000 threads or users using this laptop. Clear for everyone? Yes, is it clear? Yes, am I audible or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. So now what if we want to run a test with more than 2000 threads, right? So this CPU on this laptop, it can support up to, can handle 1000 to 2000 threads. Now, what if I want to run a test with 3000 users or 2500 users? So definitely one machine will not be sufficient, right? So in this case, we go for this distributed testing, something called distributed testing. So what is distributed testing? It is a kind of testing which uses multiple systems to perform stress testing. So to perform load testing, actually load or, okay, let me modify it a bit, load or stress testing. Here, any performance test, right, which involves more than more than 2000 users. So if you want to run a test with more than 2000 users, right? So one machine may not be sufficient based on your system configuration. So in that case, we use multiple systems to perform load or stress testing, right? Distributed testing enables having a local JMeter that handles the test execution together with multiple remote JMeter instances that will send the request to our target server, right? Distributed testing enables having a local JMeter. Local JMeter is called as master, right? Or controller. Recently, they named the terminology as controller, right? Yes. Having a local JMeter that handles the test execution together with multiple remote JMeter instances. Slaves, they named it as workers, right? What does this master and slave does? Will send the request to our target server. Suppose this is your server under test. This is your, let's assume that this is your server under test. Now what we are doing here we are using one machine as one machine or one desktop or laptop, right? Or a remote machine. We use one machine as a master and multiple other machines as slaves. Here you can see in this diagram, we have one master machine, this one, isn't it? This is your master machine and these are your slave machines. When do we require these days?
More users.
More threads.
Elaborate that. What is more users? If you want to run a test with more than 2000 users, right? I explained you just now. So this CPU on this machine can support, suppose you want to run a load test with this computer, right? And it has 2.6 gigahertz. So it can support up to 1000 to 2000 threads. And one more thing, there should be enough RAM also on the machine. Remember that. Not only CPU capability, there should be enough RAM also on your machine. Suppose if you see here, 1 second, let me open the task manager one more time. See, now the RAM is, total RAM is 8 GB, out of which only 1.5 GB is available, right? And you remember I told you, when we use web protocol, how much memory does each user take? If you are running a web protocol script, how much memory or how much RAM does each user consume? I give some numbers on that.
5 to 10 MB.
Correct. 5 to 10 MB. Each user will take around 5 to 10 MB.
Yes.
Right now, suppose if you are running with 2000 users, you are right. Let's say each user is taking, simple calculation not required actually. Okay. So suppose you are running a test with 2000 users into 10 MB, isn't it? How much is this 20,000 MB divided by 1024 gives you in GB. Hey, what is this? Hey, sorry, I gave 2000. Sorry. Instead of 2000, I gave 20,000. Sorry. So 2000 users into 10 MB. So this much divided by 1024. Okay. See, this much RAM is required. If each user takes 10 MB of RAM, this much RAM is required. Clear, guys? 19 GB of free memory is required. You have to take care of that also. But here you have only 1.5 GB. So how many users can 1.5 GB support? 1.5 GB RAM. How many users can 1.5 GB of RAM support? Can support
250 users.
100 to 150.
150 users approximately, right?
Yes, sir.
So now if you want to run a test with 1000 to 2000 users, what should we do? We cannot use one machine, one single machine, right? In that case, we use this distributed testing. In distributed testing, what do? We have one we use one machine as master machine, and client will provide these machines, guys. Okay, so client will provide, or else you will have, your company will have some machines, provide you some machines, remote machines. Okay, right? And you will use one machine as master machine and the remaining machines as slave machines. Is it clear so far what is distributed testing?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right now, so how to set up this, like how to set up this, or how to make this configuration ready is, first let's understand the master and slave and target. Is this clear? First of all, what is master machine or controller node? So I gave the new terminology also. Previously they used to call it as master slave, now they are calling it as controller and worker node. So I have shown here actually in JMeter's website. Okay, if you observe here, previously they used to call that as controller node అని ఉంది కదా ఇక్కడ, they used to call that as master. Okay, and worker nodes they used to call as slaves. And target is nothing but your application under test, whatever your application, whatever the application you are testing, that is target server. Clear, guys? Is this diagram clear?
Yes, sir.
And here you have step by step also, right? You see here, right? You see here what are the step by step, what is setup, right? Now let me go to the PPT. Right, so there are certain preconditions. These are the preconditions to do that master slave setup or controller worker setup. First condition is the firewall on the system should be turned off. The firewall on all the computers. Suppose you are using, in this diagram you are using 4 computers to do the test, 4 machines to do the test, 1 as master machine and 3 as slave machines. Now you should turn off the firewall on all the 4 machines. And how to turn off the firewall? Simple. Go to search here firewall.cpl. CPL stands for control panel. CPL, see, observe here, CPL stands for control panel. Okay, go to that, open that firewall. This is your Windows firewall. Please remember this. This is your Windows firewall. Right? Windows firewall means firewall that comes with a Windows operating system. Now everyone should understand what is meant by a firewall. What is meant by a firewall? Anyone?
Windows security.
You see here, see the description here. Windows for Defender firewall can help prevent hackers or malicious software from gaining access to your PC through the internet or a network. You can see the definition here, right? Windows Defender firewall can help prevent hackers or malicious software. Malicious means, what is meant by malicious? Dangerous software. Malicious means from gaining access to your PC through the internet or a network. We hear sometimes, right, there is network was hacked or something, right? So this firewall protects that from that hacking attempts or any malicious software, right? Now how to, but if you want to use this master slave setup, you have to turn off this firewall. How to turn off this firewall is, go to the turn on. So here you see an option, right? Turn Windows Defender firewall on or off. Click on that and use this, observe here, by default turn on will be selected. You have to select this turn off Windows Defender firewall, right? Turn off Windows Defender firewall. It is not showing as not recommended, but if you want to do this master slave setup, you have to do this. Okay, you should do this. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
So, and just click OK, so that your firewall is turned off now. Now see here, it is Windows Defender firewall state is on off now. Suppose if this one is selected, observe here, it will show you as on here. See here, it is showing as on, right?
Yes.
Right now it is showing as on. Now if you go to this, let me turn off this for a while, right? So, and click OK. Remember to click OK at the bottom. Now you see the status is off, right? Windows Defender firewall state. This is off, right? Now this is the first condition to use this to do this master slave setup. Okay. The next condition is, or next prerequisite. The next prerequisite is, okay. So before that, let me explain. In some cases, firewall may still be blocking the traffic. You should disable the Windows firewall or Linux firewall. If you are using Linux boxes for doing a load test, right? You have to turn off the firewall on the Linux boxes, those Linux boxes. Okay. So mostly your remote machines or servers will be Linux boxes only. So find out what are the steps, let me search for that. Okay. Command to turn off firewall on Linux. Firewall status D or something is there. Yeah. Sudo systemctl stop firewall D. Right. This is the command to stop the firewall on Linux boxes. Clear, guys? Or here you can see how to disable the firewall for Linux. Right. Clear, guys? So you will find the steps like what are the commands, like commands to disable the firewall on Linux. Google search for it and you can do that. Right. Now let me go back to the PPT. If it is Windows firewall, it's simple. So you can go to the UI and you can turn it off over here. Just select the radio button. That's it. And click OK. Okay. Now the next prerequisite is all the machines should be on the same subnet. All the machines means all the machines that you are using for testing. So these 4 machines in this diagram. Suppose if you are using 4 computers, 4 machines for doing a load test, right? All these machines should be in the same subnet. Okay. How do we know that it is the same subnet or not? Is the first number will be same. So if you observe here, see, if you observe here, all these machines IP address are 192, is 192, right? That means all these machines are in the same subnet. Is it clear, guys? And also this one also. All the 4 machines are in the same subnet here. How do we confirm that if they are in the same subnet or not? Is the first number in the IP address will be same. If the first number in the IP address is same, then you can say for sure that they are in the same subnet. Is it clear, guys, or no?
Yes, sir.
Now, so let's move on to the next one. Clear on that. Yeah. And if the machines are not on the same subnet, maybe they will not recognize each other in the network. So they should, if they are not in the same subnet, we cannot do this distributed testing. And use the same version of JMeter to avoid unanticipated errors or issues. Means use the same version of JMeter on all the machines. Okay, let me add this point on all machines. On all machines used for distributed testing. Guys, so use same version of JMeter on all the machines, and make sure you use the same version of JMeter and Java also on all the systems. Right? All the machines should be having same version of Java. And what is the command to check the Java version, Achyut? Achyut, are you able to hear me?
Sir.
What is the how to check the Java version on this machine? Suppose I want to check Java version on this laptop. How to check that? How can I check that? Achyut, you are on mute. You remember or no?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Narendra?
One prompt log will Java version.
What is that? ఎక్కడికి వెళ్ళాలి?
command prompt.
Huh?
Command prompts.
Command prompt. Okay, how to open command prompt? Hmm? In Windows
Suggest of
search
the
box,
command prompt.
command prompt. This is Windows search, right?
Okay.
Command type command prompt. Yeah. I opened a command prompt. Now
Java hyphen version.
Java
Enter.
Java space hyphen version.
version.
Okay. This is how you can check the Java version. Now see, this is the Java version. This is 1.8, Java 1.8. Now you should have the same version of Java on all these machines. Whatever machines you want to use, right? Suppose whatever machines you want to use for load testing, right? You should be having same version of Java. If you don't have Java, or if you don't have same version, you can install it, right? You can download and install it. You know how to download and install Java, isn't it? Right? And now also they should be having same version of JMeter also, right? And next you have to set up SSL for RMI or disable it. This is important step. All these preconditions are important. So this you have to set up SSL for RMI, right? Now let's understand what is this SSL and what is RMI. Okay, so first of all, let me open your notes and let me type this. Right, so these are the full forms for SSL and RMI, guys, right? As I explained, SSL stands for secure socket layer and RMI stands for remote method invocation. I'll explain what is that SSL and what is that RMI. Okay, I'll explain that. Don't worry about that. I'll explain. So observe here, this is the last important prerequisite is last but not the least, or important, one more important prerequisite is we have to set up SSL for RMI. What is this SSL for RMI? Is since JMeter 4.0, the default transport mechanism for RMI will use SSL. Okay, first let me explain this RMI. What is this RMI and all this? Basically, RMI is a Java terminology. Okay, so if you Google search for what is RMI in Java, right? You see here, right? So RMI stands for remote method invocation. Now, what is this RMI? Why does RMI come into picture here is, what exactly we are doing here is, we will be invoking JMeter on the remote machines from the master machine. From the master machine, we will be invoking JMeter on the remote machines. Okay, so we are remotely invoking that JMeter on the remote machines. Remote machines low, we will have JMeter installed on all the machines. Master machine nunchi we will be invoking the JMeter on the remote machines, right? That's why that term came into picture here, remote method invocation. Is it clear, guys?
Yes.
మాస్టర్ మెషిన్ లో ఉన్న JMeter నుంచి రిమోట్ మెషిన్స్ లో ఉన్న JMeter ని ఇన్వోక్ చేస్తున్నాం. వీఆర్ రిమోట్లీ ఇన్వోకింగ్ JMeter on the remote machines. That's why that term came into picture here. RMI came into picture, right? Now from JMeter 4.0 means from this version, right? Default transport mechanism for RMI will use SSL. ఇలా మనం మాస్టర్ మెషిన్ నుంచి ఒక మెషిన్ నుంచి వేరే మెషిన్ లో ఉన్న ప్రోగ్రామ్ ని రిమోట్ గా ఇన్వోక్ చేయాలంటే we have to use SSL from 4.0 version, from JMeter 4.0. Now SSL needs keys and certificates to work. For this, so is it clear first? Is this statement clear first? Default transport mechanism for RMI will use SSL. Means ఒక మెషిన్ నుంచి ఇంకో మెషిన్ లో ఉన్న ప్రోగ్రామ్ ని ఇన్వోక్ చేయాలంటే we have to use SSL. That's what this statement means. Is this clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, now for that SSL to work, means ఈ రిమోట్ మెథడ్ ఇన్వోకేషన్ అనేది we should use SSL to invoke that secure socket layer connection ద్వారా ఇన్వోక్ చేయాలి. And that SSL needs keys and certificates to work, and you will have to create those keys yourself. So observe here, like yeah, I'll come to that, please wait. So you will have to create those keys yourself, right? SSL work avalante we need keys and certificates to work. Now who generates these keys and all is we have to generate those keys by ourselves, right? Now the simplest setup is to use one key cert pair for all JMeter servers and clients you want to connect. Ignore this statement. Whatever is highlighted, this is important. Now, so how to create this is JMeter comes with a script to generate a key store that contains one key named RMI, right? One key named RMI. So JMeter comes with a script to generate a key store that contains one key and its corresponding certificate named RMI. Okay, you need not remember all this, but you should remember something. What you need to remember is JMeter comes with a script, and that script is located in the bin directory, JMeter bin directory, and is available for Windows system, right? So in bin directory, we have a file called create RMI key store.bat. Create RMI key store.bat. So this is the batch file that comes. This is the script that is used to create this keys and certificates. You understood, guys? SSL work అవ్వాలంటే keys and certificates కావాలి. ఆ keys and certificates ఎలా generate అవుతాయి అంటే JMeter comes with a, by default JMeter comes with a file script called create RMI key store.bat. Now let me go to the JMeter folder and show you that script. So do we have a shortcut? Yeah, here it is, JMeter shortcut. Right click and use open file location. You'll go to JMeter bin folder, right? Here, how many files? Observe here, how many files are there currently in JMeter? Observe here, how many are there? Where can we check that? How many are there? How many files are there in a folder? How can we check in Windows operating system? How many files are there in this folder, guys? How can we check that? Guys, am I audible?
Select 46 items చూపిస్తుంది కదా సార్.
చూపిస్తుంది.
Who is this man? Who is this?
అచ్యుత్ సార్.
Yeah, Achut. Yes. So you see here at the bottom, you see 46 items, Ani, right? You see here, right? 46 items. Even if you select Control All also, Control A also, it will show you, right? Control A also, it will show you that. See, observe here, 46 items selected and now, right? Now, let's see, where is this RMI key store? Create RMI key store. Here it is, create RMI key store.bat. Now double click that batch file. That is a Windows batch file, right? You can read that batch file, guys. By the way, suppose you want to read that, right? You can read it, you can open it, show more options, and edit with Notepad++, and you can open a batch file, right? You need not understand all this, but I just want to show you that we can open a batch file, right? Now, so fine. So let me run that script now. So I started that batch file, and here it is asking some questions. See here, what is your first and last name? These are, so I kept a screenshot of the questions in the PPT. Observe here, what is your first and last name, right? So now this script that we started that script now, that batch file now, RMI key, what is that batch file name? Create RMI key store.bat. Remember this file name, okay? And in Unix like systems or in Linux, you have a file called create RMI key store.sh. You have to use this file if you are using Linux boxes. If you are using Windows boxes, you have to use this batch file, Windows batch file. Is it clear, guys? See, observe here, there is another file called create RMI key store.sh. sh stands for shell script. Observe here, sh stands for shell script, and bat stands for batch file, Windows batch file. If it is Windows operating system, you have to double click and run this batch file. If it is Linux operating system, you have to use this shell script. Now I already started that batch file, and here it is asking some questions. What is your first and last name? Just give RMI. You can give any answer here. You should don't give your first name and last name. You can give any answer here. Give RMI, because we are using RMI concept here. I am answering all these RMI. Okay. Here, guys, I gave a screenshot. So this is just to remember, like, you know, you, right? You can give SSL. Anything is fine, but you have to see. I gave a screenshot over here, right? Inside this. what is the name of your organizational unit? I gave here a perf test, but you can give any answers. Please remember this. Okay. And what is the name of your state or province? Again, give RMI, right? And next, last one is what is the two-letter country code for this unit, right? Just give IN. So here it is asking for two-letter country code. That's why I gave IN. Clear, guys? Yes, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right? And observe here, still we have 46 items in the file. Now I am clicking enter here, right? And it is asking for confirmation. Is CN is equal to RMI, right? OU is equal to RMI. This is nothing but, whatever questions we answered, right? It is see, OU means organizational unit. Observe here, this OU stands for organizational unit. CN means your first name and last name, and L means L is nothing but locality. Okay, and ST means state or state. ST stands for state, and C is equal to IN. C for country. Country is equal to IN. It is asking just for a confirmation. Okay, just type yes here, right? Type yes here. So if you forget, like don't nothing to worry. I gave the screenshot here, isn't it? Right now, click yes, sir. Now it is generating. You got a statement, right? It is generating something. Now observe here how many. See here, one more file got created in this folder. See here now, what are the what is the number of files in this folder? You see here 47 items, isn't it?
File got created.
Right? And what is the latest one? Latest created one, sort with date modified. Okay. Now we will see that the file that is generated. See, observe here. This is the one that is generated just now, 18th March 8:33, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
RMA keystore.jks file. A file gets created called RMA keystore.jks. JKS stands for JMeter Keystore. JKS stands for JMeter Keystore. Now this JKS file should be copied to all those machines. To all these machines. Which machines? Suppose you create that JKS file on the master machine and copy that JKS file to the slave machines, all the slave machines. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Right? And next, what next? You have to copy that JKS file to the remote machines. Okay, I think that point is missing over here in the slide, right? Okay, it is generate key pair. Yeah, I'll add that. 1 second. Let me check first if it is missing. Confirm that. Yes, that step is missing. Run the once we run the batch file. Okay. RMI, what is the file name that is created just now? No one is paying attention. I just
RMI keystore.j.
.jks.
Right. So the RMI keystore.jks file will be generated. Right. Copy that. What is the next step? Copy that .jks file to slave machines.
Yeah.
Now, what is the purpose of this? Why are we doing all this exercise? Is master machine and should see we are creating one keystore file and copying it to the remote machine so that each machine can communicate with each other. All the machines can communicate with each other. Only after doing this, communicate with each other in terms of JMeter. This RMA invocation can happen. Okay. All the machines trust each other basically. Once you do that, and they will communicate with each other. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Recording. So let me repeat for recording purpose, guys. So these are the steps for setting up SSL for RMI as I explained here in this slide. here you can see setting up SSL for RMI, right? And now you can either set up SSL for RMI or disable SSL for RMI. Now let me show you how to disable that SSL for RMI, right? Go to your JMeter bin folder. There will be a file called jmeter.properties, right? Jmeter.properties. Open that in Notepad or Notepad++ or any of your favorite editor, right? And search for SSL or RMI. Okay. There will be some option here to turn off that. 1 second. Yeah, see here. So set this if you don't want to use SSL for RMI, right? Is this understandable? Set this if you don't want to use SSL for RMI. If you don't want to use SSL, use this option, right? Copy this property from jmeter.properties. Remember, you should not make any change in this jmeter.properties file. This is a master file. You should not make any changes. Just copy that corresponding property, copy that line, right? Or else copy these 2 lines, including comments. Go to your user.properties. Go to user.properties file, right? And open. So go to user.properties and go to end of the file, right? Oh, I already copied it. Observe here. I already copied this, right? And you have to, what you have to do is uncomment this line. Remember, this hash is commenter. So if you remove that hash, that is an active line now. Like I have uncommented this line now. Remember, like all the comments will be in green color, whether it is load runner, right? Load runner also, if you remember, like, or if you know load runner also, so comments will be in green color, isn't it? So, or remember here in this hash represents, if you want to comment out a particular line, you have to use hash, right? So I have uncommented this line, and SSL disable, RMI SSL disable is equal to, you have to make this as true. Means we are disabling SSL for RMI. Clear, guys? By using this one. Is it clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Now this is the correspond disable it. So this is how we can disable it. You have to set up SSL for RMI or disable it. Clear? And how to set up SSL is this slide tells you the steps how to set up SSL. If you want to disable it, simple. You can just copy this line and paste it into this one, into user.properties file, and restart JMeter. Once you make any no, I don't think no properties file. Okay, restart JMeter to be on safer side. Just restart JMeter. Okay, clear, guys? So you have a lot of properties defined in the main master file jmeter.properties. So you see a lot of properties defined here. All the required properties are defined here. You just need to copy them to user.properties and change it over here, right? So these are the JMeter best practices. And one more thing, so right, so whatever I have explained just now, that we have to change the properties in only user.properties, right? So this is one of the JMeter's best practices. Let me show that. If you go to Apache JMeter website and go to best practices, right? Let me show you that. Observe here, managing properties. When you need to modify JMeter properties, ensure you don't modify JMeter properties, jmeter.properties file. Instead, copy the property from jmeter.properties and modify its value in user.properties file, right? So this is what Apache JMeter itself is saying, guys, right? Doing so, and why do we need to do that is, doing so will ease your migration to the next version of JMeter. Let me explain this statement. What is this statement? What does this statement mean? Is, suppose today you are using JMeter 5.4.3, isn't it? So the version that I have is 5.4.3, right? So, and when you are using this JMeter 5.4.3, you made a lot of changes. You made required changes to user.pro. You changed some JMeter properties, right? By changing it in user.properties, tomorrow, let's assume, let's suppose like you remember like once in a while, like, or for every 1 month or so, they are releasing JMeter is using new versions of JMeter. Yes or no? Apache is releasing new versions of JMeter, right? Suppose after some time they released 5.4.4 version. Okay, now but you already modified some JMeter properties, right? You need not modify it in the new version also. You can simply copy this user.properties to the new folder, JMeter 5.4 or 5.5. Clear, guys? For example, tomorrow Apache released 5.5 version. Let's assume that 5.5 version is released or 5.4.4 version is released. You are working from 1 year or so, you are working on JMeter 5.4.3 and you made some changes in the properties files. You made some changes, right? Now, if you want to use a new version of JMeter, you need not make all these changes in the new version. You can simply copy that user.properties file to that new version bin folder. Understood or no? Yes or no, guys? Understood or no?
Yes.
Right? So that is what this statement means. Doing so will ease your migration to next version of JMeter. If you want to switch to next version of JMeter, right? This will be helpful. This best practice will be helpful. Clear? Yeah, I'll take a pause here. Any queries?
So the SSL change.
1 second. Let me record this. Yeah. Can you repeat your question?
So yeah, you asked that if SSL changes is needed, that we need to change only in master or on all the controller machines. That property file.
Okay, properties file. Okay. This is enough in master.
Okay.
If you want to disable it, this is enough in as master machine.
Okay.
Good question, actually. Note that. Actually, I did not disable it actually, so that's why I know, like, I'm not 100% sure. I think we have to change it in all the slave machines also. Now we have to change it in slave machines also. The approach that I follow is like, I will not use this property, but I will use that JKS file only, copying JKS file only. Okay. We do all these steps and
so if you are using this master and save concept, then it is mandatory, right? For
yes,
adding
this is mandatory. Either you have to see, it's mandatory to do either of these. Either you have to set up SSL for RMI or disable it completely. Okay. Now, if you are setting SSL for RMI, we have to create a JKS file and copy it to the slave machines. If you want to disable it, right, you have to disable on all the machines. Okay. I did not try it, but simple common sense, right? So we are disabling that SSL. We have to copy this property on all the slave machines. I didn't try it, but simple common sense, right? Yeah. I prefer to set up SSL for RMI only, actually. I did that approach only. I did this approach only. Okay. I create a JKS file and copied it from master machine to slave machine.
So what's the difference if we are doing like that? If you are creating and if you are disabling it, what makes that difference?
Okay. What makes the difference means, setting up, disabling the SSL is something like not setting password for your laptop or desktop. Okay. So anyone can use it, right? But if set up SSL means this is something like setting password for your laptop and sharing to your family members. Suppose you have a laptop at home and you want all your family members to use it. Either you have to give the password to everyone, or you should not set the password. So these are the two approaches. Then only they can use, right? Use your laptop, right? Either you have to set up password and share it to others, or else you have to disable the password, isn't it?
Okay.
Right. Now,
best practice will be like setting up it, right?
Best thing is set up the SSL for RMI.
Okay.
Yeah. The next step is, last step is how to use this. Like now we are done with the setup, right? And now how, sorry, there are a few more steps, sorry. So what is the next step is add the slave machine IP address on the master machine. Add the slave machine IP address on the master machine. And where should we add that? Is on the master machine, go to bin directory and again go to user.properties file and add the IP address of slave machine in the remote host section like this. And how to get this? Where do we get that? Is again go to your master, your jmeter.properties file, right? And search for remote here. You need that code, right? You need not write any code. Search for remote, okay, in jmeter.properties file and find next. Click find next till you find that exact property. Right, see here, you see here, remote host and RMA configuration and undi kada. Now what you simply do is you can copy these lines, right? Copy these from jmeter.properties, go to user.properties and paste it here. Those here, remote host and RMA configuration, right? Now what you have to do is you should give the IP addresses like this. IP addresses of slave machines like this. Remote host is equal to any. You should give the slave machine IP addresses like this. Okay. For example, I have one more laptop in my network and it's IP. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll take this diagram only as an example. Suppose these are the slave machines 192.168.0.10, 0.11, 0.12. Then what you have to do is on the master machine, you have to give the IP address here of the slave machines. You have to give the IP address of the slave machines here. 192.1. What next? 168.0.10, comma 192.168.0.11. 192.168.0.12. I took this example, guys. Suppose your slave machine IP addresses are like this: 192.168.0.10, 11, 12. You have to enter the IP addresses like this. IP addresses of the slave machines separated by a comma. Clear, guys? So we are on the master machine. You have to do this on the master machine. Remember this. Clear? Yes or no, guys?
Yes.
Right. So this is done on the, we should, so this step is done. Add slave machine IP address on the master machine. This step is done. Now on the slave machines, you have to start jmeter server.bat. Then where this file will be there? Your in jmeter bin directory, you will have a file called jmeter server.bat. If you go to jmeter, there is a file called jmeter server.bat. This one, right? You need to simply start this on the slave machines. Please remember this. You need to do this on the slave machines, and you should see this message: created remote object unicast server reference. Ani, you should see this message. Then only you can say that like this is working, right? You should do this on the remote machine. Please remember this, not on the master machine. Clear, guys? Here you can see start jmeter server.bat on the slave machine and run the test. Once you start this, right? Once you start this jmeter server.bat, you will see a command prompt with displaying a message saying that created remote object. And then you can run the test. How to run the test now? On the master machine, run jmeter GUI and open the test plan. Right? Do you have any? Yeah. So open the test plan, right? And now observe here. If you go to run, yeah. If you go to run, right? You see here. Okay. Remote starter. Okay. 1 second. It is not showing up actually. 1 second. Let me restart jmeter. Did I save this file? Yes, this is saved. Actually, it should show the IP addresses now. Let me try that. Okay. Previously, you remember, in remote start, you saw only 127.0.0.1. Now, after restarting jmeter, you are seeing the IP address of the slave machines, right? Guys, yes or no? You understood the difference? You observed the difference? Previously, you have 127.0.0.1 only here. What is that 127.0.0.1?
Flow machine.
Hmm? Yeah. So to explain you what is that 127.0.4.1, what I did is I opened WebTools application. I started WebTools server on my machine. And how to access that application, guys? You know that already. What is the URL for that, guys? WebTools.
Localhost. Localhost.
Hmm.
1080. WebTools. Index.html.
I think in Edge browser it will not open directly. Yeah. Okay. Right. This is how we are accessing the machine. Now let me type this 127.0.0.1 here and enter. Are we getting that page? The same page. I will do one thing. I am copying the URL, and because you may think like, you know, we got it from the cache, right? No, we did not get it from cache. Just to prove that I am copying that, opening that URL in an incognito browser. Now you got the page, right? Now also, instead of, even though we used 127.0.0.1 instead of localhost, we got the page, right?
Yes.
What does that mean? Can you now tell me what is this 127.0.0.1?
Proxy IP. The default proxy IP.
Hey, some people are already working, right? Some people are, I have some people who are already working. They should know what is this 127.0.0.1. Okay. Anyways, so 127.0.0.1 is the IP address, default IP address of your machine. Remember this. This is the default IP address of your machine. Clear? Guys, understood or no?
Yes, yes.
That is the default IP address of your machine. Okay. And when you are connected to a network, you will get some other IP address. Suppose I connected to a network, and how do I check the IP address now? IP config, right? Sorry, IP config. So this is the current IP address of my machine. Even if you use this one also, you will get that page. Let me show you that. Instead of this default IP address, if I use this one also, I'll get that page. I got that page?
Yes, sir.
Yes or no? Okay, let me do one thing. Let me do it in a private browser. Okay, so that, you know, your cache will not be in play, right? Here now also we got this page, right? When this is when we are connected to a network. Okay, disconnect to your internet connection and try it once. Try which one you should try when you disconnect from a network. You have to use 127.0.0.1 or localhost, then only it will work. This IP address is applicable when you are connected to internet only, when you are connected to network only. Understood, guys?
Yes, sir.
So all the essence of the story is 127.0.0.1, right? That is the IP address, default IP address of any machine, your machine or my machine, the, you know, any machine in this world. That is the default IP address of your local host. Is it clear or no?
Yes.
Okay. Now let me go back to this. So let's complete this, right? Next, what you have to do now, once you, then you have to, how to run the test. At this point, you are ready to start load testing. On the master machine, run JMeter GUI and open the test plan. Let me open some test plan, right? And now if you go to run, right? If you go to run, right? Now what I want to do, I want to run this test with some 2000 users or 3000 users. Let's say, for example, I want to run this test with 3000 users. Okay. Now what I can do is I can go to run and remote start. You can use remote start all. Now what happens is remote start all means you are starting JMeter on all the remote machines. That's what it means. Remote start all means, right? That is how you can run a test, distributed testing. Here, guys, or else if you want to use only one machine, what you can do is remote start select that machine, whatever you want to select. Just select that any of these remote machines. Now what happens is, this whatever user load you gave in 3000 user load, it runs on this machine, local machine, that is master machine, as well as slave machine. ఇక్కడ 1500 users remote machine లో 1500 users run అవుతుంది. We are using 2 machines. Understood, guys? Suppose you want to run a test with 3000 users. Okay, so what you have to do is, you have to give 1500 here, right? And go to run and select remote start, select one machine. Okay, then what happens is 1500 users will run on this machine and 1500 users will run on the remote machine also. So total you will be able to achieve 3000 user load in that way. Is it clear or no?
Yes, clear.
So these are the steps for this distributed testing with JMeter. All right, I'll stop it here for you. So if you have 2 machines, 2 laptops or 2 machines at your home, right? Try this. Try to run a test using 2 machines, those 2 machines. Try all these steps, right? All the steps in these 3 slides, and try that, and show me if possible. If that's works successfully, you can present that in the next session. Okay, I will stop it here for today. I am pausing recording. Okay, let me repeat that, guys, for recording purpose. So these are the important interview questions on this concept that we discussed today. This JMeter distributed testing, master slave configuration, and these are the important questions that you can expect. The first question is, what is the maximum load that you tested with JMeter? Right? That is the first question that you can expect. What is the maximum user load that you tested with JMeter? Give your answer. Your answer should be, give some answer like this: 3000 or 4000. 3000. Let's say 3000. You said 3000, 4000. Now the next question they can ask is, how many machines did you use to achieve that? Let's say 4000 user load. Right? And simply say 2 machines or 3 machines. Again, you can say like, we have 3 machines. We used 3 machines. Understood, guys? Right? And now, let's say you told 3 machines. Now, can you explain the steps? Can you explain the steps in steps on how to configure that master slave setup? Right? Then you have to explain all these steps. First, you have to explain what is distributed testing, then explain what are the preconditions, then explain what is this SSL for RMI, and explain these steps. We have to add the IP address of the remote machines in the master slave user.properties file, and then we have to start JMeter server.bat on the slave machine, and then we have to start go to JMeter GUI, go on the master machine, go to JMeter GUI, open the test plan and go to run, and either select remote start all, or if you want to use 2 machines, right? This master machine and 1 slave machine. So anyways, you are using this master machine here. And if you want to use 1 slave machine, select the IP address of the machine, whatever you want to use. Or else if you want to use all the machines, you can use this remote start all, right? But you have to give the load accordingly. Suppose you want to run a test with 4000 users, right? Do 1000 here and go to run and use remote start all. Now what happens is 1000 users will be running on master machine, and 3 into 1000 users will be running on the slave machines if you use remote start all. Understood or no? JMeter batch is understood or no?
Yes, understood.
Right? So if you can explain in this way, then they will understand that you have executed, you have genuine experience, and you have good experience in genuine and good experience in JMeter. Then only they will believe that you have very good experience in JMeter. Please remember that. Okay. Any questions on this topic, guys?
So this number of users, the capacity count, we will get it from users only, right? Like how we will decide which machine will have more or less or equal? We have to divide always.
Okay. Suppose you have, if you have four scripts, let's say for example, so you'll distribute the load between those four scripts. They need 250 each. Suppose user registration script is there, or else ticket booking script is there. So you add that third group and give another 250 or whatever. You distribute the load, right? That is what your question, right? How do we know that how do we know that how many users we should run with each script?
Yes.
Is that your question?
Yes, Pawan.
Right. So that you will get it from your test plan document. You can refer to the test plan document, or client will tell you, right? So client will tell you, or your business analyst team can tell you what is the user load distribution across different scenarios or different scripts. Okay. That user load distribution will be given by your client, or else you can refer to the test plan document. Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions on from this JMeter batch?
For me, Ganesh.
Ganesh.
Sir, yesterday I got some issue in the Konocard setup, sir.
Okay, we'll see that after the session.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Any other questions from JMeter batch? If you don't have any questions, I'll stop recording and close the session for today. Okay, I'm stopping.